Olama stared at Obianuju with a mixture of confusion and rage. How did she know of my plans, she thought. You heard me, Obianuju said. You wanted to kill me. Here I am so you can kill me. Olama could not hold back her rage. She breathed heavily out of deep anger, and her form began to enlarge. Her eyes turned blood red. At this point, the ladies who walked with her stood beside her like the Amazon women warriors. The more she moved, the bigger and fiercer the ladies became. Multiple hands began to emerge from Olama's back, transparent but definitely there. Obianuju did not stir. She simply sat still, said nothing, and just watched the scene unfolding before her. The doors and windows of the salon began closing on their own, and the lamps in the room flickered on without anyone lighting them. The terror within the saloon grew, and the roaring of Olama, or the creature she had become, filled the air. At this point, Obianuju closed her eyes, muttered some words, and stamped her staff on the ground with great force. The room reverberated with the act, and the salon was suddenly veiled from the villagers who were beginning to gather outside due to the noise. The sound they heard was gone, and all they could see was the usual appearance of the salon when it was closed. I would like the whole village to watch what I do to you and for the story to be told for ages, Olama roared. That's a great idea, Obianuju agreed. This response infuriated Olama and her guards. It's just that the person who would die would be you and your minions. But if you insist on killing me, you will need a new tactic. You see, the villagers can neither see nor hear anything happening here. Olama signaled her ladies to check and see if what Obianuju said was true. One of the ladies opened the window and looked out. The villagers were going about their business as usual. They overheard someone telling a lady that the Priestess Hila visited Olama, so she had to close early today. The trio turned to Obianuju. I know, right? That's really a good trick, Obianuju said. Olama began changing back to her human form, and the huge warrior ladies beside her also deflated in size, and their fierceness vanished within a few minutes. As the last set of hands vanished from Olama's back, she fell to the ground, exhausted and pale. What did you do to me? She asked Obianuju. Nothing. I just cut off the village from you. You have been using the energy of my people to fuel your evil forces. You were going to destroy Umuadi by harnessing their life energies to grant you powers to fight me. How do you know all that? Olama asked, her ladies beside her holding her up and doing their best to keep her steady. Obianuju ignored her question. Now we both know whose death this occasion would spell. Can you choose not to let that happen? She asked. One of the ladies beside Olama stretched forth her hand towards Obianuju in anger. Obianuju looked at her and a bolt of fire shot from her eyes and surrounded the lady with a firewall. Spare her, please, Olama pleaded. She is the only child of her mother and my best friend. But she was sent with you because she breeds death, Obianuju responded. This is my battle, not theirs. They are only helpers, Olama explained. For me to grant your wish and spare your friend, you have to give me something in return, Obianuju said casually. Anything you ask for, Priestess, Olama agreed. Early in the morning tomorrow, before sunrise, you shall come to see me at my shrine. Prepare yourself, because you may encounter things you did not plan. But also remember that you promised to give me whatever I ask for. That's it? Olama asked. No, my dear Akonna, or Olama as they call you now. It is when you have arrived at my shrine that I will tell you what I want in return, Obianuju said and stood. Gods of Umuadi, let the energy flow, set the balance. With that, she stomped her staff 3 times and Olama felt better. The fire around her friend died and the magical glamour over the salon lifted. Obianuju turned and headed for the door. What if I fail to come to see you in the morning? Olama asked. Obianuju stopped on her path, turned, looked at Olama and smiled. You would come, she said, and continued on her way. Early in the morning before sunrise, Olama heard her name echo loudly in her house. The voice was so loud that she jumped out of bed. Surprisingly, her husband was still sleeping soundly and did not do as much as stir in his place. Olama looked around but no one was in the house. She went back to bed and sat down. As she tried to relax, thinking it might just have been anxiety after the event of the previous evening, the voice echoed again. Olama, 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 you should be on your way to the shrine. Her head began to hurt and the voice refused to let up. Olama stood and ready to go to see the priestess healer as instructed. At the shrine, Obianuju sat facing a big pot of water. She stirred the water and Olama's face appeared. The sun must not touch you before you set your foot on the ground of the shrine. Run, she said. A few minutes later, Olama ran into the shrine. Stop right there, Obianuju commanded. Wash your hands and feet using the water in that pot. Then come sit with me. Olama did as she was told. Obianuju continued with the ritual she was performing, singing and praising the gods of the land. When she was done, she turned to Olama. Who are those figures that help you braid? And how long have they been with you? She asked. They are my helpers, Olama answered. They have been with me since I was a child. She went ahead to explain how she was given a gift after her parents and aunt died in a mysterious fire. Their spirits stayed with her and helped her with everything she did, providing multiple invisible hands, which accounts for her speed in everything she did. However, braiding being her trade, other spirits had been invited to help too. The spell is such that no one sees the other entities with her unless through a mirror when she is working. Obianuju listened intently as Olama narrated her story. When she was done, Obianuju asked the next question. How did you get the other spirits? Olama thought for a while and explained. My mother was barren for 10 years after she married. To have a child, she visited a seer and asked for the help of the gods. She was given water in a small clay pot to drink for 8 market days to help her conceive. She was grateful, but did not know she would pay a dire price for it. What do you mean? Obianuju nudged. The water she was given was from the forbidden river of Mpimpe. Obianuju nodded. She knew what that meant. The mother had not been given a child by the gods of Umuadi, but by the river goddess who requested a life for a life, and to keep your life, you have to renew it somehow, sometimes by blood, and at other times by robbing others of things they may not notice you are stealing. My mother and father died in a mysterious fire because they refused to sacrifice me to the goddess after they found out what the seer had done. So their spirit stayed to support me. The seer warned me that the day anyone saw the hands, I would be done. When you used the mirror in my salon years ago, they left me. But remaining with you meant endless restless existence for them, Obianuju said. I know, but my parents insisted that that was the only way for me to stay alive. If I released them, the river goddess would come for me. I never wanted to be cruel, neither did I mean to hurt or scare the people of Umuadi. So when I used the mirror in your shop years ago, albeit briefly, the tie was broken, Obianuju said. Yes, my priestess, Olama responded. Where did you go afterward? Obianuju asked. As predicted by my parents, the goddess sent the bleeders to pick me up at nightfall, and I was chained and tortured in the dark chamber under the waters of her kingdom. Olama responded. You should be dead. Why are you still alive and back in Umuadi? Obianuju probed further. I have to further my family, a promise I made to my parents. So when the goddess gave me the option of returning to Umuadi with a vengeance and the advantage of being able to weave the spirits of her people into an unbreakable entanglement that will not only facilitate my hairdressing skills, but also give me supernatural powers to do many things, including destroying anyone I wish to. I took it. I knew confronting you would be tough. That is why the two ladies were sent as my helpers, Olama explained. And your husband? Obianuju asked. He is just an ignorant person who got caught in the web. While I was at Eleme recovering from the torture, he fell in love with me and asked me to marry him just before I returned to Umuadi. I went along with it as a cover and as a means to fulfill my desire of bearing an heir to further my family bloodline. At this point, Olama was sitting static on her stool, her eyes looking white. Obianuju nodded quietly and then dipped her finger in the Nzu paste in a calabash before her and drew a half moon under her right eye and Olama's right eye. Then she jingled the wind chimes on her priestess staff of office. I'm sorry for your loss and all the pain you had to bear. I also apologize for the trouble my ill thought out action may have caused you. But there is one thing you must tell me. Anything, my priestess, Olama responded. Why didn't you consult the seer? That may have averted your trouble, Obianuju continued. I did, after my parents died, but she said the deal was done and there was nothing she could do about it. And when the bleeders came for me, first I fled to the seer, but instead of securing my life, she handed me over to them. Obianuju began to sing in veneration of the gods, and as she went about completing the rituals at the shrine, Olama's iris became visible again. Olama looked around her environment. The priestess Hila was standing beside her holding a calabash bowl with a tonic in it. She stretched her back and wondered how long she had been sitting in that position. The sun was almost overhead. She turned and looked at Obianuju. Drink this, Obianuju said. It will make you feel better. Without any questions, Olama took the bowl from Obianuju and drank the contents. Obianuju was right. It did make her feel better. She was unsure what would become of her now. At least she knew she must have confessed everything in her trance. As if she read her mind, Obianuju spoke before she could ask. Go home to your husband, and may the gods of our land protect you both and give you an heir as you have desired. Olama stood, bowed in gratitude and went home. That evening when she slept, for the first time in over 10 years, the dark creature sent by the goddess did not haunt her dreams, nor did she receive any summons from the kingdom beneath the waters of Mpimpi. The next day, as Olama went to her salon, she was alone and scared. Her spirit friends had left her. The two ladies who accompanied her have gone away. The powers of the goddess of River Mpimpe no longer held her. Even the marks of the goddess on her back had disappeared. She no longer dreaded the threats of the Seer of Umuadi. She was happy, grateful, but scared. She was unsure how to maintain her salon. She was certain she would no longer be able to braid with such astonishing speed and precision. She pondered how she would break the news to her customers, some of whom had become friends. She considered leaving Umuadi again, but what reason would she give Okonta, her husband? First, she must buy a bag. She may just have to pack her stuff and close the salon down for good. So she turned left and headed to the market. At the market, while she was in Mama Nkechi's shop, picking out the bags she would need, some women gossiped about the showdown in the palace the previous evening. The Princess Hila had visited the village head and requested an emergency convergence of the elders. This is usually a rare occurrence. The village head obliged her and all the elders gathered. There, she broke the news of the betrayal of the land committed by the seer. Everyone knew the consequence of such an action. While they spoke, the seer arrived, furious that she was not invited to the meeting as is tradition. She cursed at the priestess Hila and the village head for daring to disrespect her that much. Without any need for a trial, she had unwittingly confirmed the things the priestess Hila had just told the council. The priestess Hila simply looked at her and said, Mawai, return your staff of office to the ultimate shrine before sundown tomorrow with the materials needed to sanctify the land. You must also leave Umuadi before the next Ike market day. Remember that today is Ore market day, which gives you a little more than 2 days. One of the women mimicked. The seer fumed. How dare you call me by name? Do you know who I am? Do you understand the powers I represent? The princess Hila jingled the wind chimes on her staff. Leave or face more dire consequence. Your choice. Then the seer roared, I will show you, Obianuju, that you are nobody. Umuadi is my territory to rule and not yours. Since Akuna could not kill you, I would have to do it myself. So you admit that Olama is Akuna. Well, she's just Olama now. You no longer have any rule over her, and Umuadi is for the gods. I guess it is correct to say you lost, Mawai, the priestess Hila said. At this, the seer fumed and conjured a whirlwind and channeled it towards the cancer and the princess Hila. The princess Hila looked up to the sky. Gods of Umuadi, you have been challenged by this mortal. Deal as you see fit. She then stomped her staff on the ground loudly, and the whirlwind stood still, towering high. She stomped the staff again, and the whirlwind changed direction and headed for the seer. She tried to run, but was caught in the wind in full force. She stomped the staff the third time, and the whirlwind tore the seer limb from limb, and her pieces littered the palace. The guards gathered the remains and burnt them to ashes. The princess Hila stood. Hail the gods of Umuadi, she said, and walked away. Later that morning, Olama arrived at her salon with her bags ready to gather her things. She knew that whatever her decision, she was safe and could live a normal life. That alone made her grateful. As she began gathering her personal belongings, she heard the familiar chime that used to infuriate and scare her. But today, it excited her and made her smile. My priestess, she greeted with a bow and smiled broadly. Obianuju raised her staff. May the gods keep you, she prayed. What brings you to my humble salon today? Olama asked. I may be the priestess healer, but I sure love looking good, and the gods do not object. Obianuju responded. Olama laughed. You have a good sense of humor, my priestess, but I don't think I qualify to braid your hair anymore. Also, I'm afraid I have lost my gift, Olama said humbly. Before you pack up your stuff, why don't you test your theory on my hair? I insist, fast or slow, you must braid my hair today. As you wish, my priestess, Olama agreed and offered Obianuju a seat. She was scared and unsure of herself, but the princess Hila has commanded. Who is she, a humble citizen of Umuadi, to refuse? As she dipped the comb in Obianuju's hair, her doubts began to dissipate. She picked the first few strands of hair and her fingers began moving. And before her very eyes, they worked just as fast as they did before. And the beauty of the hair was just as neat and precise as always. Obianuju waved her friends in. Ngozi and Ebube walked in with a huge mirror and placed it before the priestess Hila. Olama, scared at the sight of the mirror, relaxed as she noticed Obianuju's smile. Shortly, she was done with the braids. Thank you, the Spirit Weaver of Umuadi, Obianuju said. What did you call me? The Spirit Weaver of Umuadi, Ebube and Ngozi echoed. Yes, what they said. Obianuju responded to the confused Olama before her. The goddess of Mpempe River did not give you your gifts. The gods of Umuadi did. The seer saw the gift and exploited it, and the pact your parents made, though in ignorance, set you on the path you have walked until yesterday. Now you are free, and the gods of Umuadi can use your skills as they intended. What? Olama asked, overjoyed at the news. Can the gods still use me? You shall resume your training in 8 market days, and after the initial ceremonies, you shall accompany me every Eke market day. With that, Obianuju stood and left the salon with her friends.